Over the last few weeks, I've been shooting with the Sirui Astra 75mm T1.8 Anamorphic cine lens. I've been using it on a bunch of paid gigs and also just for some personal projects. And this has been a whole lot of fun. This is a fully autofocus cine lens that allows you to shoot with a native 2:35:1 aspect ratio. And you're looking at it right now. What really sets this apart is the price. Comes in at $850. A lot of anamorphic glass will set you back thousands and thousands of dollars. And we get the benefit of autofocus. And guess what? It works. Let's get into it. Before we get into it, just a quick thank you to Sirui for sending this in for a review. Now, they make 3 lenses in the Sirui Astra range, including the 50mm T1.8, which I've previously reviewed, the 75mm T1.8 that you're looking at right now, and the 100mm T1.8, which is a much tighter focal length. These all give you the same shooting experience. So the build quality is identical, all the switches and dials are in exactly the same spot, and they're a true consistent series of lenses. Each of the lenses come with 2 different flaring types. We've got blue and neutral flare, so you can pick which one you like for the aesthetic that you're going for. If you're shooting a sci-fi movie or short film, for example, the blue flare would be the way to go. If you're shooting almost anything else, or you don't want the flares to be too distracting, that's where the neutral looks beautiful. Now, these lenses are available for Sony E, Nikon Z, and L mount. And again, I've only tested the L mount versions, but I'm very impressed for a couple of reasons. 1, they're nice and easy to use. 2, I can de-squeeze the image in camera as a preview, so I can see my full super widescreen aspect ratio just looking at the LCD monitor right here. So this is a huge benefit. Now, if you're coming from an older camera system, or if it doesn't give you the anamorphic de-squeeze in camera, you can get yourself a cheap external monitor from Cine or whatever and de-squeeze it that way. And that's a really great way of getting into filmmaking. And the only disadvantage to that is that you'll need an external monitor. But the great news is most modern camera systems will let you preview the de-squeezed image in camera, making it nice and simple. Another big benefit to anamorphic glass is it's not cutting away pixels. You're getting that super wide aspect ratio without having to crop vertically in post-production, unless you're looking for a different aspect ratio again. But unlike standard mirrorless glass, where you're going to be trimming the tops and bottom of your frame to get the same aspect ratio, this just delivers that look straight in camera. It's really cool. All right, let's do an autofocus test. This is with the speed and sensitivity set to 0. So the default settings using human detection. I'm just gonna walk up to almost minimum focus here, jump out of frame, jump back in, pop out of frame, and go back in. And it should have found the background and then found my ugly mug. Now, if I hold my hand up, it should go to the foreground, back to my head, and back to the background. And after testing this out over the last couple of weeks, it's very usable. You can slow the focus pull down if you want. You can set the speed a lot lower and get more of a cinematic focus pull, but it really just depends on what kind of shooting situation you're in. Let's try a tap to focus test. So I've just set a 1 area box up on the back of the camera. I'm just going to tap between the foreground to the background to the foreground and to the background. This will also show you how much focus breathing there is. So just pay close attention to the edges of frame. And you can see there's a little bit of focus breathing, but definitely not too much, pulling focus here from minimum to infinity focus. The 75mm T1.8 lens comes in at 650 grams, so it's not heavy, and I'll put the pounds or different scale on screen over here. Now, this allows you to shoot between T1.8 all the way wide open down to T22, which is fantastic. Now, the aperture ring can either be clicked or declicked thanks to the button on the side over here, which is killer. It allows you to get either a really nice smooth aperture ramp, or you can just leave it locked off. I love the fact you get a 67mm front filter thread. This is a nice common size to find NDs, polarizers, or combo filters. Now, we get some professional features on here, including an iris lock button. So you can leave the aperture set to automatic, and then you can lock this off and it's not going to move. This allows you to fully control the aperture via your camera. You don't have to lock it though if you don't want. You can still control the aperture just by leaving it like this, but if you don't want it to move at all, you've got that option. There's also a focus hold button over here, and what this allows you to do is to use autofocus push it down when you want to hold that particular focus point, and then say for example someone leaves the frame and you want to focus to the background, you can just release the button and then the focus will resume. It's a really cool feature. You can map this to different features within the camera body's menu as well. So yeah, it's up to you how you want to use it. We've got our autofocus manual focus switch over here. Unlike most focus by wire lenses, this has hard stops on either side, which is pretty uncommon. I really like this. It allows you to pull focus repeatably and reliably. Additionally, we get a distance scale in both feet and meters. On the back of the lens, we've got our USB-C port, which allows us to update the firmware, and it's as simple as dragging and dropping a file in. There's only one compromise in terms of shooting and usability, and that's that if you're shooting in autofocus and you switch your camera to manual focus, or if you switch the switch on the side of the lens to manual focus, the focus point could move potentially, and it does most of the time. Because this isn't your typical perpetually spinning focus ring, what they had to do is make the move to have it adjust focus to the point that the actual focus ring is located in. Now, this is the same as the 50, and I would assume, not testing the 100, it would be identical on that. But if you like to shoot manual focus and you start in manual focus, you can just get that repeatable and reliable focus pulls without any problems. I actually kind of like this. In a way, it's a bit of a bummer having it slightly shift if you're rolling, but once you know that it's there, you can work around this quite easily. Let's compare the field of view and look on the 75mm T1.8. Let's switch it over to the 50. And now we're over to the 50mm T1.8. And as you can see, I've got so much more room on the sides of frame. It's also going to render the background a little bit differently as well. The tighter the focal length, the more bokeh and background blur you're going to get. But this still has plenty, and it's a really great match in terms of colors and contrast. Let's switch it back. And back to the 75. So if you're on the fence between the 75 and the 50 is probably the better all-rounder. The 75 is a great lens for sort of tight body or headshots if you're going to be shooting short films like that. But just know you do need to back the camera up quite a lot further if you're in close quarters, which might not be ideal. I think that's where the 50mm will definitely get the win. So the all-rounder win goes to the 50, but the 75 look is really impressive. I almost prefer it. Let us know what you think. Let's talk about flaring. So if you're looking for anamorphic flares, these lenses do an excellent job. You get beautiful horizontal streaks, and the overall end result gives you the look that anamorphic lenses are known for. One thing to note though, if you're shooting towards the sun in certain types of situations, or you're getting a lot of side light directly into the elements, that's where you'll notice a different kind of flaring. And this also makes you lose a little bit of contrast, but it was nothing that I couldn't fix in post-production just by moving the levels slider down in Final Cut. If you got DaVinci Resolve or whatever, it will be the same. So just keep that in mind. But yeah, again, I love the look, but it's all subjective. You can make your mind up. I shot with both the 75 and 50mm lenses on the Hohem iSteady MT3 Pro motorized gimbal review that I did recently, and it was what I was using in most of the shots at the gym. And man, the experience was great. I was able to switch lenses out without needing to rebalance everything, which is fantastic. Now, if you like to shoot handheld, there's a couple of things you need to know. Especially with Lumix cameras, you need to go into the IBIS settings and turn it to anamorphic mode. It will give you better stabilization. But doing so makes you lose the high E stabilization option if you're shooting with a camera that has it. You still get the standard, and that works great, but the high will be grayed out. But this still gives you better stabilization than leaving it off. You might notice some jitter. So if you're shooting with these handheld, you're like, what's going on? Make sure you turn the IBIS settings to anamorphic mode, and I'll show you how to do that on screen here as well, because it really makes a big difference. Now, if you've never owned one of these lenses before, I'll just give you a quick rundown of what you get in the box. So the box not only looks cool and it gives you all the information about it, but inside we get the G Master experience of a nice soft padded carry bag for it as well. Now the lens itself is vacuum sealed within the bag, so you have to cut that open, and then you've got yourself an actual carry bag for it, which is always appreciated. All right, let me give you some final thoughts here. And I also want to share with you some feedback I got on the videos that I produced at the gym, because they both said this was some of the best footage they've ever seen. They loved the super wide aspect ratio. They just said, man, it looks like a movie. That was the first thing they said, even when I previewed the footage on the back of the cameras, which were the Lumix S9 in that particular shoot. They were like, man, this looks unbelievable. They were just shocked. And I felt the same way. I was like, usually I just shoot with either a wide prime lens or a zoom lens, and it would just look like every other gym video. These lenses really changed the look of the gym footage to the point where it looks much more professional and quite a lot different from everything else. And I think that's the whole purpose of these lenses. Not only does it give you a more filmic look, it just gives you a leg up over the next guy using the same old standard sort of glass, giving you a very similar end result. These are great for filmmaking. They're great for any sort of run and gun documentary work where you need to deliver in this 2:35:1 aspect ratio. It really makes it very easy. And I love the fact that the autofocus just works as well. Like, it takes my mind off having to fiddle around and do all that kind of stuff. So I think for any serious filmmaker who wants more creative control over the look that they get in their video, rather than just like stopping all the way down and being able to sort of walk in and out of the frame, I can move around in the frame and still get the look I'm going for in terms of the background blur amount, how much light I want to let in, all that kind of stuff. And it's just a very easy way of shooting. So I would have no problems recommending these. This just simplifies the experience. If you're anyone doing any sort of filmmaking, whether that's documentaries, feature-length film, or short films or whatever, definitely check these out. They're very inspiring to use. It actually makes me want to shoot anamorphic more and more. Anyway, thanks for watching. My name's Shane. I will catch you on the next one. See ya.